Hi, it's Lisa Unger,
Hey.
and I am here with the amazing Kate White, the former editor of Cosmopolitan magazine, turned New York Times bestselling author of just these incredible, smart, sexy, twisty thrillers that everybody loves, of course. And I am reading right now, Have You Seen Me? By said amazing Kate White. And it's fantastic. I love every minute. I've been loving every single minute of this book. Really, it's so great. And when we talk again, because I think we're going to talk um, for your book when it comes out on April 28th. We're going to
Ah,
talk
yeah.
again, right? And I have some questions I want to ask you about arrowheads and about being a young person living in the East Village and all these like good things that like sort of meant a lot to me because I grew up in New Jersey and I went to college and lived in the East Village, so I want to talk about those kind of things and we'll talk about that. But Kate's book, Have You Seen Me, is coming out April 28th, so we'll chat again. But right now, hi Kate.
Hey, Lisa. And you had a whole scene in one of your more recent books in the East Village, too, didn't you?
Oh, I did. I did. I often sort of go back to that neighborhood in my work because I feel like it's the place where I came of age. Like I went to NYU my first year, and I lived in the Third North dorms, which was on First Ave and 11th Street. And then I transferred to the new school, and I wound up living in an apartment on First Avenue and 11th Street. Third North was on Third Avenue and 11th Street. I moved to First, and it was like I've lived a lot of places in the world, but that is the place where I feel like I grew up. Because that was the first place I chose to be. So I tend to go back there quite a bit
That's
in my fiction.
that's that's so interesting because after I had what they now call a starter marriage in my late 20s. It wasn't named that then. It was just called being married to a jerk. That was my thinking,
Right.
at that point in time. But after I got divorced, my wonderful brother-in-law, the guy's brother, gave me his apartment to live in while he was in Asia working, and it was on the corner of Ninth and Broadway. And so I made the East Village this area that I explored, and I was sitting in these cafes. So it was a coming of age experience for me too, though at a different point in my life than it was in yours. But I sometimes go back and wander around there and just remember what it was like to find myself.
Yeah, I really got that sense at the end of the book, that you were just sort of kind. It was obviously your character going back there, but it kind of felt like you. It kind of felt like you going back there. So that
Yeah.
connected
Well,
very
people
to that.
sometimes ask, are you in your books? And I don't put myself in my books per se in terms of my
Right.
personality, but I certainly borrow from my experiences and just
Yeah, of
use them.
course. Yeah, I mean, I always say like about fiction that everything in fiction is autobiographical and nothing is.
That's so
Kind of
well
like,
put. Exactly.
it's kind of a little bit of a blend of those things. But I'm loving this. This is definitely one of the books that has been helping me to sort of disappear from the moment, which I think in some ways, these days we're all looking for distractions. It's a difficult time. We're all going through it in different ways, and obviously those of us who are readers and writers, we're blessed in some ways because we can lose ourselves in a story. Even if it's not the one we're writing, then it's the one we're reading. So I was wondering, do you have a book right now that you are losing yourself in, or is it like is there a favorite book that you kind of go back to again and again when you like need an escape?
Well, it's so interesting you said that about losing yourself even in what you're writing because I'm finishing another book that's due in like 2 weeks. And that has helped so much to
Yeah.
be I'm on the end, and that's where bad stuff really happens. And it's at night, I just lie in bed and I go over stuff in it, and it takes me away. But one book I've been rereading that I've really loved lately is The Darkest Secret by Alex Marwood. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, I haven't heard of it. I I know
Um,
Alex Marwood, of course, is fantastic.
yeah, I actually sat on a panel with her at BoucherCon, the big mystery conference, and I didn't realize she was the person who had written this book, and it's a few years old. But what I love about it is that it's so smart, and the twists and the turns and the lies people tell and all that, they are real, they make sense. And I've read a string of ridiculous thrillers lately that will go unmentioned, but you get to the point where you're like, oh, come on, really? You kind of expect like the shark from Jaws to come out of the water in a few of them.
You wish it.
And uh, this book is really so well done and so smart, and it makes everything makes sense. It's based a little bit on the disappearance of that little girl Madeline from the resort in Portugal, where
Oh,
parents
yeah.
left kids
Yeah,
in the
I just
hotel
watched a
room.
documentary about that.
Yes, which
Yeah.
was a terrific documentary. And this is loosely based on that.
Okay.
The father's having a big birthday party. He brings some of his friends down, and they leave the kids while they go to a restaurant. And it's a very good read. Very good read.
So that's Alex Marwood, and what was the title again?
Of The Darkest Secret.
Oh, the Darkest Secret. Yeah, Alex is obviously tremendously talented. I can't believe I have not read that one. Now, one of the benefits of doing these little chats with people is that my TBR list is like growing and growing. So definitely like adding that, because it's great to
Well,
get recommendations from your thriller writer pals who have like the same kind of sensibilities. So I'm looking forward to
well, I've been looking at more things and more recommendations too. And I looked at my credit card statement from Amazon, and like Amazon Kindle. I was like, whoa, what the heck is
that.
this? Like,
Yeah, I had a red flag up from my husband going like, what are all these charges? I was like, don't worry about it. So obviously, it's not just books that we're kind of, diving into these days to just immerse ourselves in stories. So a lot of us are watching more television and movies. Do you have a television show that you have just like loved right now, or a favorite television show that you go back to, or a movie, anything like that that you can mention?
I have actually been going back and watching some classic movies just because there's something uh, great about doing that. I watched one based in Florida the other day called Absence of Malice about a
Oh,
newspaper
right.
reporter. But in terms of just pure thrillers, I've been watching season 3 of Ozark, which I love.
Yeah, I love that.
But most of all, I discovered one last night that I had read about called Deadwater Fell. Have you heard about that?
I've heard
It's
about
a
it, but I haven't watched it.
new one with David Tennant, who's a British actor who's in Broadchurch.
Oh yeah.
And it is so haunting. It's about a family of 5, and the father is the only one to survive a fire that kills the mother and the 3 children.
Oh my god.
And so the question is, did one of the parents set the fire? It takes place in the UK, and it's Scottish and really riveting. It's
Oh
only
wow.
four parts, but it's on Acorn TV,
Mhm.
which you can either subscribe to or get access to through Amazon Prime.
Oh
And
right.
boy, I'm really hooked on that.
Oh yeah. What was the title of that again? Just for everyone.
Deadwater Fell, which somebody said it's almost like some of these titles for the British crimes dramas, it's almost as if someone put it into a machine and spun it out. Like, you use this, you got to use dead, and then water's always good.
Water's
There's
always
a few
good.
things with water in them lately, and mix it all up, and then here's what you get.
Yeah. Per- Perfect. It makes me think of, so with my daughter, we have gone back to start watching. We've been on like an Alfred Hitchcock binge.
Oh, can she handle
She can.
Hitchcock?
She can
Okay.
handle it. Remember,
But
you always think of her as 6, but she's actually like 14. So
but Lisa, promise me you will never let her see the one about the two nurses taking care of. Is this Alfred Hitchcock Presents the TV show or the
oh,
movie?
no, this is the movies. We've done
That,
Psycho, Rear Window, and The Birds.
okay,
They're
that's good.
all like kind of, they're very comforting, compared to what you see now on, in terms of like sort of mystery thriller. They're all very just, they're all very lovely. They're very beautiful, like the beautiful Grace Kelly and Tippi Hedren, and like just,
Yeah.
they're just very gorgeously colored, and yeah, they're terrifying in some sort of way, but they're also just lovely. So we've been kind
Well,
of doing,
particularly if Paul Newman or Cary Grant or one of those guys are starring in them, right?
yeah, it's yeah, very very nice viewing right now. So it's like kind of, it kind of, reminds me a little bit of, like when you watch sort of British TV too, it always feels very transporting in that way.
Yes, yes. Though his television series, there was one that to this day I don't think I'd watch again, about two nurses taking care of this wonderful young man who was going to survive, but he was in critical care,
Oh,
and there was a serial killer loose in the area,
wow.
and you would just not be alive when you're done watching that because it is too
Now,
terrifying.
now I have to go find it and watch
Oh,
it, so I'm going to
it,
immediately.
as a thriller author, like you are one of the absolute best, you know that sometimes, as I do, when we watch stuff like that, it teaches you little things about pacing
Yes.
and the element of misdirection and surprise. And that one, I stole a little something from it once for a book, just something it taught me about misdirection.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, now I'm definitely gonna watch it, of course.
But don't watch it alone.
Okay. Okay. Well, not that I'm ever alone right now. We're all here together. My husband, my daughter, and my dog. There's not a whole lot of alone time. That's okay. Okay. And so obviously, these are things that we turn to for comfort, and then most of us have like kind of a comfort recipe or something like that we turn to when we need comfort or our family needs a little comfort. Do you have something like that, or something that's kind of like a go-to recipe that you always know is going to be perfect every time you make it?
I actually just went back to one that I'd kind of forgotten about that my husband would just went nuts over. We're out in Pennsylvania where we live half the week, generally, splitting it with New York, and it's just been so hard to see what's happening to
Right.
everyone in the
Yeah.
world. I just feel like I have to get up every morning and just grieve and then try to get on with my day. And
Right.
so food's been a big part of what we've
Yeah.
been doing. And just, I've been trying to make nice meals. And my husband asked me, do you mind doing all this cooking? I said, even if I were alone, I would be doing this.
Mhm.
Hey, buddy, don't take it personally. Don't think it's all about you here, because I would find it comforting to do it. And there is a recipe. It's Marcella Hazan's, or is it Marcella? Marcella Hazan's simple tomato sauce.
Mm.
It is, you can Google it. It's famous on the internet. It only has like four ingredients.
Right.
And it is the most velvety, incredible tomato sauce. You basically just take a can of, 28 ounce can of plum tomatoes. You try to get the good Italian ones.
San Marzano tomatoes,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
And I just saw a great little evaluation of those, and they mentioned how Cento is a great brand.
Yes.
And then you pour it in a saucepan, not in a skillet, in a saucepan. You cut an onion in half and you put that in,
Mhm.
and then you add about 5 tablespoons of butter.
Mm.
Her original
That's
recipe
good.
had more, but it's since been trimmed down a little bit, and salt.
Yeah.
And then you cook it for 45 minutes at a simmer.
Mhm.
And you chop up the tomatoes a little bit. But then when you're done with the sauce, you've got that sort of chunky sauce.
Yeah.
And oh, it is just it something happens. I think she also calls for a pinch of sugar in her original one. But
Yeah.
when you're done, you cannot believe the velvety, rich taste of this. And I served it on some penne, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that's funny that you should say that because I'm from a big Italian family, and that is also one of my go-to comfort recipes is like just a marinara sauce. Same with those same tomatoes, my grandmother's recipe, and olive oil and garlic and basil, and just, that's like that smell, that like, that texture, the taste of that is pure comfort. It's pure childhood comfort. So that's one of my favorites as well.
But let me ask you, do you do one of those sauces where you saute first carrots and onions? Because some of them are so complicated, and that's why I love this.
No, I don't. Like for that sauce, for the sauce that I make, it's instead of butter, it's olive oil. It's olive oil and garlic. I cook the garlic a little bit first. You have to be super careful that it doesn't get brown.
Right.
Because if it gets brown, you might as well just throw it out and start again because
Yeah.
it's a sauce. And then I do the San Marzano tomatoes, fresh basil, and a little bit of salt, and that's really it. I mean, that's all of it. And then it's just it is just the time and the sitting there, like the heat, all of that. Like it has to cook. It's not.
Yeah, this one does not call for basil, but if I'd had basil, I would add, and I probably would. I
Yeah,
think it would just give it that one extra
yeah,
thing.
like that little, that basil,
Yeah, basil.
oh, basil. We love
Oh,
basil. Um,
basil.
I love you, Kate White. You are amazing.
Oh, love you, Lisa. Good luck with everything. And
Too, and I will talk again soon. We'll be talking about your new book, which I think everybody is going to. I mean, of course, everybody's going to love it because it's amazing. And we'll talk again in a couple weeks about that. And in the meantime, Kate will send me her recipe, and I'll put it on my blog. And so all that information that we talked about today will be on my blog. And also make sure to comment and like, and leave your questions. Kate and I will check our wherever we wind up posting this, whether it's her Facebook page, my Facebook page, whatever. We'll check in and we'll answer questions and all that. So definitely interact with us. And thanks for joining me for 3 Good Things.
thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Kate. You're the best.